Welcome to Dialysis Nurses Supporting Nurses Pros and Cons video. I have some notes down here that I'll be looking at periodically because I don't want to miss a thing. One thing that I know for sure is whether you are a experienced nurse, new nurse, or nurse looking into the dialysis specialty, I know that you have questions, and that is why I made this pros and cons video, because I want you to be relaxed. I want you to be informed. So this pros and cons video will likely answer your questions as to whether or not dialysis nursing is right for you. First, I just want to tell you a little bit of personal history and how I fell into being a dialysis nurse and loving it, obviously. I was a CNA since 2002. I became a registered nurse in 2008. For 8 years, I was an inpatient nurse. I did travel nursing during that time. I was in the float pool during that time. And during all of my travels and everything, I became really homesick and wanted to move back to my hometown. And one of the things that I loved about being a nurse, especially those 3 12-hour shifts in a row, is how well I got to know those patients and the trust that we built. And I found that at the end of the 36 hours with those patients, I was sad and missing them, and really felt that there was an opportunity there for me to really get to know my patients and really make an impact on their lives long term. So when I moved home, I was ready to get out of inpatient nursing, and I was ready to be specialized. And one thing I knew for sure is that the ICU was not for me. So I made a list of what I wanted in my next nursing job, and it was a pretty short list. Kind of like I mentioned before, I wanted to be a specialized nurse, and I also wanted to really get to know my patients and really take care of them long term. And the other thing that I really wanted was a more structured schedule. I didn't want to have to rotate to nights. I wanted something that was kind of more of a Monday through Friday job, but I was not ready for the clinic job. That's where they're really open 9 to 5, closed weekends and holidays. So that pretty much left me with the only specialties that I thought of that really fit into what I wanted in my next job was dialysis nursing and working at a nursing home. Maybe it could have been like case management or something like that to make it more Monday through Friday. So by God's graces, in my hometown, there was a dialysis nurse position open, and I was like, yep, that's mine. And I applied, and I've been there ever since. I started there in 2016. There are a few different types of dialysis nurses, and I'm going to talk about 2 very specific ones, and it's really important to pay attention to when you are applying for a dialysis nurse position. One is that there is an acute dialysis nurse, and what that means is that you are a dialysis nurse performing dialysis for people that are inpatient, for people that are hospitalized. And then there's also chronic dialysis nurses, and those nurses take care of patients in the clinic, where they come to the clinic Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 3 times a week. And when applying, you really need to it is important to know what type of dialysis position you are applying for. At the dialysis clinic that I work at, we float between the hospital and the clinic. And I think this is rare, and I don't think this happens everywhere. So I find that I'm very grateful for that, because I get acute and chronic dialysis nursing experience. So again, when you are looking for a dialysis nurse position, it is important to distinguish if it is the hemodialysis acute nurse or hemodialysis chronic nurse. And not to be totally cliche, but I'm just going to be cliche. I firmly believe that people's strengths are their weaknesses, and their weaknesses are their strengths. With that, pro is a con and a con is a pro. It just kind of depends on really your personality type and what type of dialysis nursing you're doing. First, I'm going to start with the pros and cons of being a chronic dialysis nurse. Now I'm going to look at my nurse. Now I'm going to look at my nurse. I'm going to look at my notes down here. All right, one thing that is for sure, a chronic dialysis nurse, your mornings are going to be early. The techs will come in. At my clinic, they're there by 4:45, and the nurse is there by 5:15 a.m. and the clinic stays open until 7 p.m. I don't have a night shift position, where some dialysis clinics might be open 24/7, especially in the big city, but they're still long days. That clinic is open for 15 hours, but what I really like about the clinic is that it closes. Where when I was an inpatient nurse, the hospital is open 24/7. You get rid of one patient, you get another patient right back. So this is awesome, where it just, the end of the day, it just kind of settles down, and everybody leaves and then you close the place up. And I love that about being a chronic dialysis nurse. So the clinic being open 15 hours, the shifts are going to vary. You're not going to just have a straight 7A to 7P position or 6A to 6P position. You might come in at 5 a.m. and be done at 1 p.m. or you'll come in at noon and be done at 7 p.m. and the shifts will vary. So it is not a very structured shift at the dialysis clinic, and that can be a pro or a con. You can like that or you can hate it. The chronic dialysis nurse position is not a desk job. You are on your feet all day. I really don't get a lot of steps in, but I am on my feet going from station to station. I would also argue it's not the most ergonomically safe position or most ergonomically perfect position, where there are a lot of repetitive movements, there's a lot of leaning, and there's a lot of reaching, and there's a lot of bending. So if that is something that you do not want in your next nursing position, I would not recommend being a chronic dialysis nurse. I think I said this in all of my videos, but dialysis is complicated. Kidneys do a lot for your body, a lot of the things I didn't even realize until I got in this position. So knowing that your dialysis patients are complicated, there is going to be a lot of multitasking, there's going to be a lot of lab review, and there's also a lot of collaboration, not just with your social worker or dietitian or the other nurses, but also with interventional radiology, the vascular surgeon. A lot of your patients might have wounds, so they're going to the wound clinic, or maybe they have some other kind of hematological diagnosis and they're going to the hematology oncology departments. So that's where you have a lot of multitasking, and you really need to know a lot about a lot of patients. I've been there 5 years, so it's gotten easier for me. I've really gotten to know my patient's history, but it can be a challenge for a new nurse. But if it is a challenge that you are up for, because long term this job is so fulfilling, I would definitely recommend dialysis nursing for you. The relationship and the trust that you build with these patients over time is like nothing I've ever experienced in any other nursing job that I've had. Period. Done. What else? All right, the other thing that I kind of mentioned that I was looking for in my next job is that you get to work with the same patients every week. That can be a con. Watch this. Yeah, I work with the same patients every week. Or, I love my job, I get to work with the same patients every week. So you can kind of see how that can be a pro or a con. But one of the biggest pros to this chronic dialysis nursing position is that you are specialized. You are specialized. You are special. Nobody anywhere in the healthcare world is going to know your ESRD patient like you do. They are so special, they are so complicated, and there are so many rules and there are so many exceptions to the rule. So if you are looking for a job that is going to be a challenge, I was a nurse for 8 years before I went to dialysis, and I really got hit hard. It was a real challenge going from expert to novice, but it was a great opportunity to learn something completely different, something I had no knowledge about before walking into that clinic. Also, being a chronic dialysis nurse, we hire new grads at the dialysis clinic, and I think new grads are a great addition to your dialysis team. They come in fresh, they come in coachable, and they come in excited, and also without really any bad habits. So they're some of my favorite people to bring into the dialysis clinic, and then we got them. All right, so that's my pros and cons list of chronic dialysis nursing. So now let's jump into acute dialysis nurse pros and cons. Number one, where I said that chronic dialysis nurses get up early, so do the acute nurses. But guess what? They also have to stay up late, because when you are working a hospital, that hospital does not close. You are done when your orders are done. And sometimes that can mean that your 8-hour day turns into a 12-hour day or even a 16-hour day. So you have to work long days. But part of the pro of working those long days is once you reach your shift completion, they're like maybe you're scheduled from 5:30 to 4. If you have to stay later, then you get call-in pay. So there is that extra kind of money bonus where you get to do call. See what I did that? You get to do call. Call isn't for everybody. If people want to be done when they're done at a set time, that is not acute dialysis nursing. You go in at 6 a.m. and you don't know what time you're going to be done that day. You could be done early. Maybe the hospital's still that day. I mean, when does that ever happen anymore? I would argue there's not a lot of structure with acute dialysis nurses. You could plan to be done at 4 o'clock, and then all of a sudden a dialysis patient comes into the hospital with high potassium. You're going to be there another 4 or 5 5 hours to help get that potassium down. But you're also saving their life, you know? So I really enjoy that part of acute dialysis nursing, is that you are the only one that knows how to work that machine, and you're the only one that can access that fistula. You are the only one that will come in and be able to save that person's life because of what is going on with them, and the only cure is dialysis. That is like one of the coolest things about being an acute dialysis nurse, and I really keep that in mind when I am on call and people are like, oh, you're on call, that sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm the only one in town that is going to be able to save this person's life. It's cool to be special like that, in my opinion. All right, so pro or con is you have to do call, and there's long days and early mornings. Some hospitals will have a dialysis suite where you can bring in hospitalized patients into the suite and run 4 patients at a time, or maybe it's a larger suite and run 6 patients at a time. But there are also very sick people in the hospital, like people in the ICU or people on COVID isolation that cannot leave their room. So then in turn, you have to go to them, and you are working on your own. You have to hook up the water on your own. You have to hook up the machine on your own. You have to take care of them on your own. And you're the only one. You'll be surrounded by ICU nurses that will help you take care of that critical patient, but you're the only one that knows how to work that machine. So you really have to be comfortable working autonomously and working on your own. And some people love that. That's one of the things I love about floating over to the hospital, is I am working independently. But it's also one of the things that I love when I work at the clinic, is that I'm working with other people. And if I'm having trouble doing something with a patient, I can ask for help just like right over there. We're at the hospital. It's not like that. You really have to hone in on your dialysis skills. And that is one of the reasons why, if you want to be an acute dialysis nurse, you have to have at least 1 year of nursing experience. That goes by fast. So I did a lot of comparing between chronic and acute dialysis nursing, because even though they sound very similar, I kind of feel like they're very opposite at times, where one of the pros of working in, pros or cons, depending on what you like, is you have to work autonomously at the hospital. But if that is not for you and you like to work as a team, that's where the clinic would be more appropriate for you, because there you're working with people all the time and you're collaborating and you are really working as a team. And those are the pros and cons of being a dialysis nurse. I really feel like this video gave you an honest answer to the pros and cons of being a dialysis nurse. I will admit it is not for everybody, but it could be for you. And if you're looking for a challenge and you're looking for something different, and if you're looking to build long-term trusting relationships with your patients where you can really make a difference in their lives long-term, I would recommend dialysis nursing to any of you that want that. I really feel like nurses are resilient, and you can really do anything that you set your mind to. God, I'm so cliche today, but I really believe it. Out of everything that I've done, nursing school has been the hardest thing that I've ever done. I would try anything in nursing, but I would never go back to nursing school. And that is the honest to God truth. So if you made it through nursing school, you can make it. You can become a dialysis nurse. Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching this pros and cons video. I worked really hard on it, and I'll see you next time.